Welcome everyone to Old Roommates. Today on the show, we revisit 1990s postcards from the edge. So, you're unsure about listening to this episode? Do it for the endorphins. Have a seat and get ready. The revisit is about to begin.
Welcome everyone to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. This is Christina.
And this is Brian.
And we are revisiting Postcards from the Edge. Mm-hmm. So the book was written by Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
And it was made into a movie. Did she have anything to do with the production of it?
Yeah, she wrote the screenplay.
She wrote the screenplay. Okay. So anyway, so that's what we're doing today. Brian, I want to know what your history is with Postcards from the Edge.
Sure. So really quick, it was directed by Mike Nichols. Carrie Fisher wrote the screenplay, but it is pretty different from the book.
Yeah.
So Postcards from the Edge, I definitely saw it on video cassette. And what was really funny is that I had got it because I wanted to see it. I've always loved movies. Go figure. I've always loved movies. I was watching movies and like any kind of behind the scenes type stuff. I read every movie magazine when I was growing up and so with Postcards from the Edge, I was like, oh, this is cool. It's about Hollywood. It's a Hollywood story. Mm-hmm. I love Carrie Fisher. I was a huge Star Wars fan like back in the day. I'm like, this would be great. And what was really funny is I rented it for me. And my mom like went out a lot. So like, you know, and I would be home and I remember this pretty vividly is that like I rented it because I knew I'd have to be home to babysit for my siblings, mm-hmm. and they were younger, so they would be in bed or whatever. But like my mom ended up not going out, so she's like, "Oh, what did you bring from the video store?" And I was like, "Oh, Postcards from the Edge," and it was so funny because it's such a mom story.
Yes,
and
So you ended up watching together.
We did watch it together.
Oh, I love
and I think
story.
I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed it a lot more than her. I also think that, you know, I think she's also watching it like, oh my God, Brian's, you know, I mean, at this point, 1990, it was on VHS. So I was just probably like, maybe a freshman in college. So around like 19 or 18, 19, I guess. But I don't know. So I feel like I definitely liked it a lot more. And I don't know what happened. By the end of the movie, I'm like, oh my God, I want to watch it again. Mm-hmm. Like, I just became so hooked in this character of Suzanne Vale, Meryl Streep's character. I loved the sarcasm. I loved how bright it was. And even though it was like an addiction story, mm-hmm. it's pretty... The vibe is light.
Very light.
Like, we talked about Sister Act recently.
Well, because she's in recovery, too. It's
right.
not like you don't really see her...
You don't spend a ton of time in rehab. Yeah. I think that would have been darker. You don't really... You never see her doing... You see her popping pills and she... Yeah. So, but over time, this became one of my favorite movies. And I would just, like, put it on... or if it was on TV, I would just let it play. I would watch it whenever it was on. But I haven't seen it in a really long time. But I will still say to people, like... I like asking people this question where it's like, you know, if there was one movie you would want someone to watch to understand how your, like maybe your sense of humor or how you tick, what movie would you make them watch? Mm-hmm. And this would be my movie. Like, I feel like the sense of humor, the sarcasm, the storytelling, this movie just speaks to me. And I have no connection to anything going on in this movie. I never had a drug problem. My mother's never had
To be clear, you're not an addict.
I'm not an addict. And my father had a massive drinking problem, but the dynamic was almost non-existent. Like we didn't have a relationship at all, really.
Right.
So it's like,
and your relationship with your mother is pretty positive.
It's pretty positive, although she is larger than life. I mean, there is a...
She is.
Yeah. I mean, I know, you know, but it's like...
But she's not like... Was it Doris?
Doris Mann.
She's
not like that.
Like
no,
Doris.
she's not...
I just want people to be clear that your mom is not like this over-the-top scene-stealing...
No, she's not. But
no, she puts everybody ahead of herself.
That's true, but she is like vivacious.
But she is a vivacious woman,
is.
yes.
What's really funny is, we these episodes, as you know, are on YouTube.
Yes.
And out of nowhere, I get an email, and it's like, oh, someone left a comment on one of your YouTube videos.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it your mom?
It was her.
No way! Oh my God, I love you, Dee.
So it was really funny. But then it's like, oh shit, have I ever said anything bad? But
what was the comment?
I don't remember. I can pull it up. But all that to say, it's one of my favorite movies. It was one of my favorite movies. I hadn't seen it in a long time, though, until the revisit. So.
And you said your mom didn't really love it?
I think she liked it. I think
it would be difficult as a mom watching this movie because the movie is very much in the Suzanne point of view. Yeah. And it doesn't paint a great picture of the mother-daughter relationship. Right. So as a mom watching it with her son or daughter, I could see it just being a little defensive about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, wait, why does he want me to watch it this way?
I didn't say...
You did make the comparison. So maybe she has a point.
You are twisting my words around.
Well, people can re-listen.
All right. So, Kristen, how about you? But I loved it.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. This was a rental for me as well. Yeah. And I don't know why I rented it. It was probably one of those, I'm working at the video store. I love Shirley MacLaine. I love Meryl Streep. I love Carrie Fisher. I mean, it seems like a good movie. Even just like the cover of it looked great. You know what I mean? It was like an attractive cover.
Yeah, with the sunglasses.
It just seemed like a good movie. I don't know if I had heard much about it.
Yeah.
In fact, I read this book. I read the book.
Oh.
Or maybe I just read Wishful Drinking.
Jesus.
No, I'm pretty sure I read Postcards from the Edge, but I don't know if I read it before or after the movie. I might have read it after. Anyway. It seemed like a good movie to watch. I remember really liking it, and I think I was expecting it to be a little heavier.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was surprised at the lightness of it. So I might not have taken it as seriously as I would have now, like rewatching it. I liked it. I thought it was funny. I liked her character.
Yeah.
It was a bit unpredictable, and I really liked the relationship between her and her mom.
Yeah.
So I liked it.
Cool.
Yeah, I maybe watched it a couple times after, but...
When did you rewatch it for the podcast?
I rewatched this, I don't know, maybe a week ago?
Oh, okay.
Somewhere around a week ago.
Any immediate...
My immediate thoughts, I was excited to see it.
Yeah.
That was one thing. And I kind of forgot that you see a lot of her when she was using.
Yeah.
I forgot about that little part.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I felt like the first scene was her in the hospital.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I forgot, like, that first scene of her shooting the fake movie and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, I was in it. I was happy to see Meryl. I like Meryl. And, I kind of enjoyed it from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was funny, just that, the bloopers and all that. I thought that was funny. Like, that was a funny scene.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I like the beginning. I did think it was a little too on the nose that she mixed up money and mommy.
Yeah.
And also, it just doesn't seem like a real blooper. Like, it didn't, through my middle-aged lens, like, it just didn't seem like a one-to-one, like, oh, of course someone would make that mistake. It's like, it's kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, and also just that it's so on the nose because it's so much about the mom. Her mom's consistently in her mind. But I'll tell you, holy shit, Gene Hackman... A+.
A+.
He just comes in, guns blazing, like, you fuck up my movie, I'll kill you. Mm-hmm. He says that to her.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what's your name, honey? She's like, Cindy. He's like, perfect. Cindy, you get your ass off my set and don't come back.
Yep.
I
loved it.
Gene Hackman, this might be my favorite Gene Hackman performance of all time. Oh, he's such a natural in this. Like, he's so... comfortable. He seems such like a real character, a real person. And he doesn't have much to do in this movie. He's only in like two scenes. Yeah. Beginning and the end. Yeah. And I actually 3 scenes. But he is at the very end with the video, the country music. So but I was just like, holy shit, Gene Hackman like really grounded this whole thing. Because it got sloppy. It was sloppy. They had the blooper, they were laughing, she peels the mustache off the guy's face. It's like, enough. It's when they make a blooper. Right. But remember, it was one shot. The helicopter landing, the whole thing, that's a huge production. Mm-hmm. And she fucked it up and she's cracking jokes. Like, I'd be pissed too. Yeah. It's a lot of people working on that movie. You can just see them.
Yes.
But one thing never occurred to me
yes.
was that it was her stand-in, Cindy, that gave her the drugs.
Oh, I didn't even know that until
They're
just
wearing
the second.
the same dress.
Didn't even
They had
notice.
the same hair. It was like, I never caught it before.
Weird.
I never caught that.
I didn't, literally right now was when I caught it.
And he calls Suzanne a spoiled, selfish, coked up little actress. I just loved Gene Hackman because he's seeing the crew guys doing the, while she's in the trailer, and he's being embarrassed.
Yes.
She's making a joke of him. She's cost him all this money reshooting the scene. I have to quickly segue because in my research, Mike Nichols directed this movie. The movie he directed, do you know this? The movie he directed before this?
No.
Working Girl.
Oh, my God.
And we talked
we did talk
Melanie
about this.
Griffith having an alleged cocaine addiction, big problem.
Yep.
During that movie, and he pulled her aside and, ripped her apart.
So he probably said the same stuff.
But that's my hunch, is that
That's
this was maybe some PTSD he was working through, because she cost the crew Melanie Griffith allegedly cost the crew she had to pay a $75,000 fine because she was so under the influence, allegedly, that they couldn't even film.
That's
so
crazy.
That whole crew.
So that's probably why it feels so real, because it was probably the exact same thing that happened.
Yep. And then going back to Gene Hackman, it's like anybody, and by the way, Melanie Griffith has a famous mom, Tippi Hedren.
That's right. Oh my God, all of these connections.
So anybody else want to be arrested or killed before we wrap this fucker? Oh my God, he's good.
He's so good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, I'm assuming people know this, but let's not assume. Carrie Fisher's famous mom is Debbie Reynolds.
Debbie Reynolds, yeah.
So this is loosely based on her life.
Yeah, so Carrie Fisher has gone on record and saying, listen, some of it's true. Just because some of it's true doesn't mean all of it's true.
Right.
And that she doesn't want her mom to be thought of this way. And in fact, Debbie Reynolds has gone on record saying that she wanted to play the character. She's like, oh my God, what a great character. She's like, but I have never crashed my car into a tree. I've never put vodka in a blender. She's like, she's like, there are some
she
things
didn't strike me. Debbie Reynolds did not strike me as, an alcoholic. Or
but there's things like when she talks about the money, when she lost all of her money to in that marriage, that did happen to Debbie Reynolds. She's like, so Carrie Fisher's like, listen, there is a lot of it it's true, but not all of it is true.
Sure.
Anyway, there we go.
Makes sense. So when did you because
I had to rewatch it. Well, no, I rewatched it. So I rewatched it. I had to rewatch it a couple times. Friday and Saturday, I watched it once each, and then I was going. Well, it's because
you always watch them more than once.
This movie in particular, the dialogue is so fast, and there's so many good bits of dialogue that I wanted to really write them down. I was pausing it and rewatching them, but yeah, I digress.
So we get introduced to Dennis Quaid's sleazy ass character.
Why are you drooling and blushing at the same time, Christina?
I'm not. I am not.
Do you think he was cute?
I did.
In this?
I did.
Would you have fallen for it?
Yes. No.
No way.
No way.
No way.
But I would have maybe pretended to fall for it.
Oh, so
be like, oh, okay. No, I thought this character was probably the poorest written one.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a little too, talk about over the top. I don't think anyone is so blatantly sleazy like that, like saying things like, I'm in love with you, I love you, after one date. And I felt like Suzanne was way too smart to fall for that shit. I just didn't like that. It's one thing to be seduced by him, which I get, but for her to hear those words, I love you, she should have seen right through it. So that part bothered me a lot.
Okay, so a couple of things to say. I completely agree. My biggest negative about the movie is actually the fight they have.
Yeah.
Not so much that seduction scene, but because she is getting out of rehab.
Yeah.
She's sobered up, probably for the first time in a very long time. Mm-hmm. And this man is earnestly, I'm using air quotes, people, telling her about his love for her. And she doesn't have a lot of love in her life. She really doesn't.
Right.
People are using her. Her mother's all about herself. And here's this guy who's being so overly romantic. And she's falling for it. And I wasn't crazy about that. But I was even less crazy about the fight. It felt way too like rom-com, moonlighting. It was just a little too movie. It felt like a low-rent War of the Roses to me.
Yeah,
it's like,
I agree.
This is 2 days. Like, what is this, 3 days? And I would even, sorry, this,
No, that's okay,
but this
yeah.
is the weakest part of the movie. Because I would even argue he wouldn't go fucking near her after that hospital thing.
No,
he
because
dropped
he was
her
afraid
off.
that she would have recognized him as something,
Exactly.
right?
That was my thought too. It's
He
like
drops her off.
I went
at
along
the
with it
ER.
in my 20s because it's it felt very rom-com to
Yes,
me.
yes.
And it's like, yeah, it's a comedy, sure, whatever.
I remember kind of rooting for them back then.
I didn't root for them, but in my 50s, I'm like, I'm saying everything you're saying.
Yes.
I'm like, absolutely not. He wouldn't even want anything to do with her.
No.
She almost fucking died at his house.
And he clearly gets laid all the time. It's not
He's
like he was
screwing
anything.
all
She was
over.
anything special.
He does
to
not
him.
have to say I'm in love with you. You could have just
Nope.
seduced her. Like,
Right.
you don't say I love you to seduce someone. But then it's like, but it's one thing after another. And that character is such a sleazeball. And even though, fine, she's sober for the first time in a long time, maybe first time in her adult life, but she should have been, to your point, she should have been much smarter than this smarmy guy
Yeah.
who is truly almost pushing her up against that fake tree.
Yes.
And kissing her, like, that's a lot. And then she kisses him, so it's fine. But like, everything around them is artifice. Like, everything's fake. Like, he's standing there on the set behind him, goes away. Like, it's red flags everywhere. And he starts off by lying to her. Although I did laugh out loud when he's like, delivery!
Yeah.
He pulls up, she's unconscious in his Jeep, and he's like, delivery! And he goes like, what? He's like, delivery? I mean, is this an emergency room? Delivery! He's like, it is an emergency room. He's like, then it's an emergency! Oh my god, that was pretty funny. He's super cute in this.
He is very cute.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree with everything that you're saying.
It is the weakest part.
It's a very weak storyline.
Yeah.
I would feel like she wouldn't be so naive.
Yes.
She's just getting out of rehab. I think this is supposed to show us that her judgment has been off in the past or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was just almost like a joke. Like how sleazy and like it was just comical. Like everything he said was like a movie line.
Yes.
And it just seemed weird to me that she would fall for it and she wouldn't pick up on that these are all lines.
I honestly would wonder if she'd even go and fight with him. That's what I didn't care for either.
Right,
that
yeah,
fight
like,
scene's
why bother?
If he finds out from Evelyn, played by Annette Bening, that she just fucked him like 2 hours
in the same
after
day.
date,
Yeah,
in the
it's
same day. It's like, I don't think I'd give him I think I'd probably call and just tell him off and hang up the phone. I wouldn't go to his house. Like,
No.
That's what I mean. That felt, those scenes feel very
She
movie.
shouldn't have gone, and maybe he would have come to her or something if she didn't show up
Yeah,
on
what's
her date
going
or
on?
something.
Yeah.
Then
She could still take out the gun.
She could still have
do all
yeah.
that. Yeah.
They were blanks, asshole.
That's from the trailer, actually,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
But what did I even write here? It says he's such a dog. She clearly wouldn't be ready for this anyway.
Right.
So he's such a sleaze. His lines are so cheesy.
Yes.
Lays it on so thick. Everything is such a movie line. People don't talk that way in real life. Maybe that's her problem, and that makes him even more sleazy.
But her one-liners back are hilarious.
Yeah, her
like
she's great. Let me tell you something. I love this character. I love Meryl Streep in this. I love the writing for her specifically. Yeah. Her and Shirley MacLaine's writing. The writing for them both are fantastic. They are so believable as mother and daughter.
Yes.
And the struggles that they have, they are both so they just don't want to disappoint each other. Mm-hmm. And it's so clear in their fights that everything they're doing, they're just trying not to disappoint each other. They're trying so hard to have a normal relationship. They clearly love each other, but they've also been so damaging to each other.
Yes.
And it's so complicated and so layered that they're trying to express how they feel for each other, but at the same time they don't want to hurt each other's feelings, but at the same time they blame each other. It's so good.
One thing I noticed on rewatch to that very point is I never noticed that every scene Meryl Streep, Suzanne Vale, is excited to see her mom.
Yeah.
Every single scene, she's like, "Hi, Mama. Hi, Mom. Oh, hi."
And then she opens her mouth.
It's like, and you see the smile instantly turn to a frown, and it's like, and you're exactly right, Christina. It's like they mean well.
Yes.
But it's like, but they just are not compatible.
Right.
Like, and, you know, and obviously Suzanne has a lot of trauma that she has to work through, but
well, as does Doris.
Doris, yeah.
I mean, her mother is just as damaging to her as she is to Suzanne.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. Suzanne, going back to the beginning, Suzanne, we're going to have to pump your stomach. Do I have to be there? That was great. So we find out that after Dennis Quaid drops her off, she was put in rehab by the doctor, played by Richard Dreyfuss, and her mother. So they put her in rehab. She wakes up in rehab. CCH Pounder is the actress's name who plays Julie, the rehab director.
I like her.
Like her a lot.
She was in something else.
She's in a million TV shows. But
you know where it was? I think it was Too Close for Comfort.
Really?
Wasn't she
That would make her very
other
old,
roommate,
wouldn't it?
She was like the other roommate, I think.
Oh God!
When one of them left and she moved in or something, maybe I'm wrong.
Wow, I don't know.
Okay,
but so she's like, whatever, ODing is signs of a suicidal behavior, and she's like, well, the behavior might be, but I'm certainly not. And that's a little bit of a negative for me. I feel like we don't know Suzanne well enough to know why she's so put off by this very thought. Like, she's almost a little snobby, and I think she's mad because she was put in this rehab against her will, and like she got a little carried away, and she's not suicidal even though her lifestyle is increasingly becoming more and more suicidal.
Right.
And yeah, but I thought CCH Pounder is just perfect in that. I actually loved all the lines, like the bumper, when she's like, "You're always talking bumper stickers."
Oh, I love that line.
But those lines were good. It's like, addiction isn't the problem, it's the solution. And I think that was really good. And then, oh God, you have to deal with your problems before they deal with you. And I think that was really important. I think when I was younger, I certainly never heard those lines before. And I think it's like, those were really well done.
They're really well, I mean, whoever wrote this, obviously Carrie Fisher, went through these things.
Right.
Like, there's no question that this is coming from a place of knowledge.
Yeah.
And these are all probably, words that have been spoken to either her or from her.
One negative, this is pretty mean, but when they're in the group talk, and that girl, Carol is her name, and she's like, I just feel like if I don't do what you want, you're going to leave me. You're going to punish me. And that's fine. It's like she's sobbing and stuff. But then Julie says, okay, I think we'll stop there today. And Carol's tears dry up instantly. Like, and she just gets up, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Is she an actress? She's like, okay, let's stop there. But like, Carol instantly pulls herself together. And then we do meet Doris. Doris comes into the rehab, and she just like is.
My daughter doesn't like it when I think.
Oh, I thought it was speak.
I have written down think. Oh, talk. Sorry, it says talk. I read it as think. My daughter doesn't like it when I talk. That's true.
Yeah. When she does that thing where she's like, 1, I don't think you should do the movie. 2, it's blah, blah, blah. And C. Oh my God. It is so funny.
So funny.
1,
so
2,
funny.
and C. You get a little bit of drama when Doris grabs the handkerchiefs and things off was it her underwear or handkerchiefs off the nightstand, and she's like, I'm going to take these home and I'll wash them. I'll have so-and-so wash them. And she's like, no. And she goes, leave it.
Yeah.
And she screams. And what I loved about that scene so much is that Doris is wearing a white shirt standing in the light of the table lamp. And Suzanne is in the darkness wearing a black shirt.
Yeah. And
what's so interesting, I never noticed that before, but when Doris is walking around Suzanne actually turns so she doesn't have to face her.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
They stop making eye contact after that moment. And then she's like, I think I'll bring in a plant and, whatever. She's like, I don't know how you could stand it. All the same color. So blah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oof, brutal.
Such a good mom. I said that Shirley MacLaine is a perfect, self-centered, overbearing, critical mother. It feels like, what does it say? I feel like I'm talking to your drama coach?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So that was a great line. I feel like I'm talking to your drama coach.
Bart does you in his drag show.
Oh my gosh. That was really funny. Meeting the, the other patient.
This is my lover, Alan. But it's hilarious. They push her out of the way to talk to her. It's very funny.
You get a sense that it happens all the time.
Yes.
All the time. So I thought it was interesting. She was talking about the hysterectomy when she had the tumors and stuff. Our friend, two of my friends have literally just had hysterectomy because of those same
fibroid tumors.
Fibroids, yeah.
Big as a grapefruit. Ever since you were born, I had a feeling you'd be taken from me early.
Ugh,
very sad, I know.
So sad.
And she was 60 years old, Carrie Fisher. And then Suzanne says, as opposed to later when it would be more convenient. Oh, the script is amazing.
It's such a good script. She throws a party for her. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm like, oh my gosh. She's just getting out of rehab and she throws a party. How horrible is that?
Yeah.
And then she makes her sing.
Well, she does say, she's like, then we'll just go in there and I'll send them all home. And I believe that she would have. Yeah. But she would have said it.
She wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to send everybody home. Yeah. I loved that she made her sing. Yeah. I love that song, You Don't Know Me.
Yes. Before that, I think this is before that though, where she says, I had a dream. And she's like, She's like, dear, I know you don't take my dream seriously. Even the one that predicted your kidney stone. I wrote, Shirley is A+. And by the way, not even nominated.
Wow.
Not even nominated
she
for
was
an Oscar.
So good.
She's so good in this movie. Yeah, You Don't Know Me. And then, of course, but you get that little edge because she's like, take your jacket off. She motions.
Yeah. So you get her. She's such
still
a dance
stage,
mom.
And she's stage momming.
She's all about it. And she's just she feels like everything she does is for the greater good, right? Yeah. She's trying to let her have her moment.
In the best possible way to look good.
She steps in and she just won't let her do her own thing.
Yeah.
And then she does her performance.
Well, Meryl Streep's a great singer.
Oh, she really is. Yeah, she is. She doesn't sing enough, I don't think.
Which is I'm Still Here in D flat. Just so you know, Stephen Sondheim wrote that special version.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes. And the best part of that, and I think there's two parts that cut a little deep, is when she says, hey lady, aren't you, who's it? And she's like, gee, what a looker you were. And then it's like, oh, sorry, I thought you were who's it, whatever happened to her. Yeah. But then she says, I made it through all of last year.
That one cut you deep.
Well, because up
until that moment. Yeah. So you're looking at Suzanne. Yep. And she is looking happy. Yep. With so much pride, admiration.
Of her mother.
She's just enjoying it so much. She's just in awe. She looks like a little kid. In awe. And then she comes over and says, we made it all through this year. And her face just drops. And it cuts you. Just that one expression change. You're like, oh, why'd she have to do that? Yep. She was having such a good time. And it's just, that's just what happens every interaction.
Well, because it's never what happens to Suzanne. It's how it affects her mother. The mother cannot get out of her own way, her own loss, her own emotions. And you get the sense that there was a lot of neglect and abuse when she was being raised as well. So she never really learned quite how to be a mother.
For sure.
Grandma and Grandpa. Grandma is Mary Wicks. We talked about her recently with Sister Act. Yes. And Grandpa is Conrad Bain from Different Strokes and Maude.
Oh, yes.
I love that. I love that
He's
scene
great.
so much.
He's great. So underrated. But, he's just in the background. But he's just so funny. Yeah. Sad and funny.
Well, I love when she's just like, get your dogs inside. Howdy's got worms. Like, she just says everything. And she's like, your mom started drinking her wine again. Oh, my God. She's so loud.
So then they end up on set.
Yes.
And she is approached by no less than 4 different people. about her performance.
Yeah, one day of filming.
Yeah, one day of filming. What was it? They were trying to up the...
they needed to relax.
Oh, yes.
She's holding back.
Holding back. That's what the word was. Yeah. Holding back. Four, there was like 3 different producers, but then they were like, everybody that talked was a criticism. Then she overheard the
conversation with the wardrobe lady.
And they're like, yeah, we just need you to relax. And she's like, I'm feeling much more relaxed now. Like, after being talked to about 1 million times.
But Simon, this is not relaxed. This is incredibly upset. And the Fritos go everywhere. So Oliver Platt, who we remember fondly from Indecent Proposal episode, he says, I'm actually a theater director. Shh. Like, it's a big thing. And he's like, listen, in comedy, it's a rule. Inflections go up at the end. And she's like, that's a comedy rule? And then he's like, listen, we're talking about 2 minutes and a 90. And she's like, is it correctable? And he's like, of course, come on. It's not like you were farting all through your lines and we're sitting there going, what's that noise? And she's like, oh, what a relief. I'm so relieved. That analogy bathes me in relief. She just bathes, kills me. Bathes me in relief. I have said that line before to people.
Oh my gosh.
It's just so funny. And then she's like, I'm much more relaxed now. And she goes stomping down the stairs.
Ugh.
So good.
I mean, you just feel so much for her. She's just trying to do her job. It's like, everybody just back the hell off. She goes from her mom to the set. It's like, oh.
And then she says, she overhears the wardrobe lady
talk about the weight gain.
Oh my god! He's like, well, we have to switch from shorts to pants. Her thighs are very. She's bulbous. She has cellulite. And then he's like, oh, I had no idea. I had no idea she was so out of shape. She can hear all of this. And he's like, what do we do about the love scene? She's like, well, if we set it up as... Oh my god. She's like, I just have the second line. Her tits are just going to fall back into her armpits. Oh my god. Imagine overhearing that conversation.
And you know there's conversations like that about every single person.
Yeah.
No wonder there's so many eating disorders and everything
exactly.
on Hollywood.
Such a shame we didn't get Valerie Rogers. Oh, Valerie has a terrific body. Oh well. Maybe we can ask her to take up smoking. Like,
I know.
You're so rude. Oh my god. And imagine having a job like that though, where that's allowed. Like, right. I mean, it's part of the job.
It's part of it. Your appearance is what they buy.
Oh, and then you have the iconic scene where she's hanging off the building, saying, help me, that's funny.
That's really funny.
I have feelings for you. How many? More than 2?
Yeah, like, that whole...
I think I love you. When will you know for sure? So good.
Yeah, she does. I mean, she is skeptical. But she still falls for it, nonetheless. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sorry. Anybody who says I love you after a date, like...
She does say... I know. She does say you're infatuation material. I mean, she doesn't say I love you back.
No, thank God.
Thank God. She comes home late at night. Her mom has waited up. Doris has waited up.
I love this conversation that happens in the middle of the night. Something about the middle of the night conversations are so much more vulnerable, too.
Yeah, well,
it's like in their pajamas and stuff, you know? So good.
I drink socially, but she's sitting alone. Like, I kind of wanted Suzanne to say, no one's here.
Right. But she doesn't have to. Like, she probably you know what I mean?
You're right.
I get it.
Yeah.
But it would have been too much if that happened. Yeah. She didn't have to say it.
Yeah.
They both know what's happening.
They have heard all these lines before. Both of them have heard each other's lines before.
Yes.
And she's constantly mouthing her mother's responses.
Yes, yeah, because it's over and over and over again. How would you like to have Joan Crawford or Lana Turner for a mother? These are my choices.
I'm middle-aged. How many 120-year-old people do you know?
I love that. I've used that line before.
I came from nothing and made something of my life. You come from somewhere and are trying to make nothing out of yours.
Oh, oof. That is quite a line.
Rubs her face right in it. And then we meet the adorable Annette Bening, who is so cute in this
unrecognizable,
movie.
By the way.
She really is.
Like,
she's super cute in this. And then...
Hilarious.
In real life, though, just a couple of years later, she would be Shirley MacLaine's sister-in-law. Because she'd marry Warren Beatty. And Warren Beatty
look at that.
Shirley MacLaine are brother and sister. I like when she says endorphins and dolphins.
Yes.
Whatever. And it is funny when because this is in 1990, and she thinks... Suzanne's about to tell her that Jack has AIDS, which is
Right.
like a really interesting conversation.
That is interesting.
And then my least favorite scene. Just
Yeah.
diving into it. Suzanne goes to Jack's house to yell at him. I think it's such a waste of a scene. It's not earned at all. It feels very movie.
Yeah,
and
it's dumb.
the
I
emotions
don't
aren't
like
there
it.
because neither of them care.
Yeah.
Like she's just pissed that he lied to her. Like, but it's like, guess what? You can do that on the phone. You don't have to go there.
Yeah. There's almost too much emotion from her.
Yes, I agree.
For the relationship that they have. He's so over the top with the lines, but then her reaction to him allegedly like cheating. Get up, boyfriend, girlfriend.
1,000%.
It would have made more sense. Here we go.
Let's hear it.
If she had been dating him like regularly before the OD,
Mm-hmm.
and then he drops her off or whatever, and she hasn't seen him, and he comes back as her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
That would have made more sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because then she can fall for some of these old lines. And maybe she's more resistant to it because she knows that he's bad for her. And he wins her over. And then she finds out that he's just been sleeping around this whole time. And then she gets upset.
Yeah.
Like, that would have felt more real to me with her having all of her frustrations with everybody else around her. Everybody on the set. And her mother and everything. And the rehab and all that. And all of this comes out on her ex-boyfriend. And that is the the huge reaction.
There's so many ways you could have gone with it. To that point, it's like you could have had them be like, I'll wait for you. I'll be here for you when you get out of rehab. But he was fucking everyone the whole time.
Right.
So it's like, and maybe they weren't even exes. I mean, so it's like, there's so many other ways that would have felt more earned. This just feels like a movie
it's kind
scene.
of like,
it just feels like
Dennis, they wanted to give
yelling.
Dennis a role.
Well, in a shower scene. Hi. Yeah. And then let's see, it feels very sitcom, feels very moonlighting. I did like though when she says, what is this? She's like, you said you loved me. He's like, I meant it at the time. And she's like, what is it? A viral love, kind of a 24-hour thing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, it's just a jealous tantrum. And I wrote, he is right. It actually makes Suzanne look probably the worst she looks in this movie.
Yes.
Because he brought her to that level. And I just don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
The comedic timing is too movie rom-com fight. But this discovery does so what it does do is it sets her off in this downward spiral because she's sober and because she's getting all these emotions and all this disappointment that her vice was always drugs.
Yes.
So it kind of has to set her up where she has, once again, no support, a mother who's judging her, no love, and it sets her off to reduce herself to taking the pills out of the medicine cabinet.
Right.
But still, there's other ways. There's other ways.
It seems like such a pivotal moment, but I forgot that scene.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, does she actually take the drugs?
One of my favorite lines in this movie.
Let's hear it then.
Doris Mann in the kitchen says, "Dear, I have something," and this is the longest pause in movie history, "inevitable to tell you." I don't know why I love that line so much.
It's so good.
She delivers it so beautifully. I have used that line in real life. It is so dramatic, but it's so funny at the same time. And because the funny thing is, she's already running late. Suzanne is already running late. She thinks she's running late.
Right.
To looping. And so she's like, but dear, there's one more thing. She's like, what, Ma?
What?
And she's
Tell
like,
me.
Ma, the news. She's like, I just know how hurt you're going to be. I know how hurt I was when I found out the news. Oh, she's so good in this
She's
movie.
so funny. I love her. I really
so
love
damn
her.
good. But yeah, she finds out that Marty, and by the way, Marty, who we met earlier in the movie, when he's the one who tells Suzanne she has to stay with her mom, that is Lucille Ball's second husband. They were together for a really long time after Desi, and he was Lucille Ball's husband when she died. He's much better known as a stand-up comedian. But what is his name?
Yeah, what's his name? I feel like I knew it at some point.
Gary Morton. Uncle Marty. He was married. They were married from 1961 to 1989 till Lucille Ball died.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, thank God I got sober now so I can be hyper conscious for this constant. I love that line. For this constant series of humiliations. Oh my God, so good.
It's so funny.
She was nominated for an Oscar, by the way. Meryl Streep was. It was her 9th nomination. Suzanne says she wants to... Oh! From that point on, and this is a middle-age lens, I never noticed this before, but it's 3 in a row where Suzanne says something she wants, and the other character in the scene says no. I never noticed it, and I don't think it's good. She says to her mother, Mom, I want to get out of the business. And her mother says no. First, A, everyone always says they're going to get out of the business. And 2, like, whatever.
Right.
And she's like, you'd be a much bigger star than Madonna Girl. So she's forcing Suzanne to stay in the business. You find out later she was given sleeping pills at 9 years old. It's part of the trauma Suzanne's going through.
Right.
Then, and is it okay if I go through this?
Yeah, go ahead.
And we can backtrack.
Yeah, no, it's good.
The second thing, she goes to see Gene Hackman. She's actually early for her appointment, not late. She thought she was running late. And she's talking to Gene Hackman. Again, he's amazing.
Yes.
And she's like, I can't. He's like, do you know people would kill for your life? She's like, yeah, but I can't feel my life.
So
and
sad.
she goes into this monologue. And at the end she says, or maybe I should just go back to the clinic. And he says, no, you're better coping out here than going into the clinic and giving up. I'm like, that's a really bad message. That's a really bad message. People sometimes need that support.
Well, maybe that was his way of saying that he didn't feel like she's
the problem.
And that she needed to just deal with her problem. Rather than run away. But it could have been said a little differently.
It's interesting that's an interesting take. That's not what I got from that, but I like that a lot more than what he says.
Yeah. Because
what we do hear from Julie very early in the film is deal with your problems before they deal with you. Mm-hmm. And to a degree that's what this guy's saying is you're just going to run back to the clinic.
Right. I mean,
instead of really facing it in real life.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, she's been, self-medicating all of these years. We don't know how many years, but clearly a long time. Mm-hmm. And this is probably the first time she's had to really deal with all of these things face on. So, of course, she wants to run away.
Mm-hmm. And then the third one, the doctor. They're talking, do you get my flowers? They're from the guy who pumped my stomach and, and all that.
She says early on, too. Yeah. Remember, early on, she says, I kind of want to date him just to say how we met.
Oh, marry him, she says.
Oh, marry him.
That's
just
hilarious.
To tell people how we met.
And so then she says, he asked her out on a date.
Right.
Now, she has said that, right before that, she says, he's like, how are you doing with the drugs? And she's like, oh, I want to do them all the time.
Yeah.
And she said, and he's like, well, I heard that might not ever go away. And she's like, how you talk? And she's like, in fact, I probably should go to an AA meeting. They help. And then he says, how about we go on a date sometime? The very next thing, she tells him she's still recovering.
Yeah.
I need AA. And he says, how about we go on a date sometime?
And he's a doctor. He's a doctor. Better.
And she says, well, we can go see Valley of the Dolls and say fate brought us together. Fine. Then she says, but it can't be a date.
Yeah.
And he says, why not? I'm like, oh my God, what an asshole. Don't ask that. Let her talk. Like, she has gone through, she's still going through it. Why do you want to date someone who's that fresh out of recovery or in recovery? And then he's like, fine. He's like, okay, I'll wait. I'm like, oh, that's big of you, champ. And she looked at him like it was a very sweet thing to say. I thought it was kind of a dickish thing to say. Like, wait for what? To get in her pants?
Right.
Like, I feel like he should have
hi, I'm sorry, but she's pretty much out of your league. Like, you should be happy to even have a friend in her.
So anyway, but going way back now, because I jumped all over that. Way back. To the big fight on the staircase is where a lot of that started happening.
A lot of that stuff comes out.
Yeah,
sure.
so anyway, so I don't know if you had any notes about that.
I have a little bit of a note on that. It's just, I loved it. I was just enthralled in it. It was so good. I think a lot came out.
Yeah.
And I loved all of the excuses that Doris has. The birthday party and twirling around. Yep. She goes, it twirled up. And she said, and you weren't wearing any underwear. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of gives you this whole, oh my God, this is how her parenting was. Yeah. This is how her life was. And it was just so good. It was so meaningful.
But
the whole fight.
And I really liked through my middle-age lens, like the fight about the sleeping pills. And she's like, you don't give a 9-year-old sleeping pills.
Right.
And she's like, they were store-bought and they were perfectly safe. And you really, I am glad, I appreciate the screenplay, the script, for allowing the mom to say her reasoning. However misguided,
she didn't mean to
turn into a drug addict.
I mean, she had her mother as a role model.
Right.
She didn't have anybody telling her. You know, she figured she went to the store and she bought these things.
My daughter can't sleep. Of course, that's what
I'm trying to help her to sleep.
Yeah.
So it's just very misguided, but coming from a good place, sort of.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So, the sleeping pill's 9 years old. I kind of did a lot of talking, so I don't...
No, it's fine. I don't really have many notes, to be honest. Any of additional notes. I did say I liked the scene with her and Gene Hackman, but they seemed awfully touchy-feely close. It was a little bit odd.
Oh, it was not for me.
It was a little bit too close for me. I don't know. I would have appreciated it more, a little less touchy, because he felt more like a father figure. And as soon as they started kind of like hugging, it felt a little bit different for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't get that at all.
It's just my mind going.
I thought it was like he really had her back.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But all the touching wasn't necessary, I didn't think.
I think it's like I think she needed to be hugged.
Yeah.
I think she needed someone to just be like, I'm here for you and you're okay.
Yeah. And then I loved the scene with her putting makeup on Mom.
Very sweet.
It's such a sweet, intimate scene.
And I want to say a lot of the reviews when this came out was like, oh, of course, a happy ending. I would actually argue that she's not sober. She fights it every day. She says to the doctor, I put my head down between my knees so the feeling goes away. Her mother doesn't change. Her mother says, oh, I'm sorry, I've realized this about myself. She's not going to change.
Nothing's changing. It's really about them learning how to be in a relationship together. Yeah. It's really more about their relationship than anything else. And kind of working towards that. So her without the drugs to try to deal with this relationship.
You also find out that Doris was beaten as a child by her grandmother.
You get a lot of understanding about why she is the way she is.
And it's really, I don't want to say hereditary, but it's systemic. Because then even the grandmother says, you know what you need? A nice, swift spank on the bottom, the way my mom used to give me and the way I used to give your mom. And da-da-da-da-da. These kids today, and you really get the idea like, oh, God, okay, so Doris didn't treat Suzanne that way.
Right.
But because she never really had that structure, she was just
trying to do the best she could.
Well, and at one point, Meryl Streep's character says, nothing you say to me is worse than what I say to myself.
That's true. Yeah. For a lot of people, I think.
I think that's very true. Cry more, you'll pee less. And then she tells her to shut up, Grandma. And Shirley MacLaine's face when she says that is like, oh my God. Wow. And she's like, I beg your pardon. She's like, I think you should. And she reads her grandmother the riot act, and Grandma says, oh, well, excuse me, Miss Snooty Britches. Oh my God. And then Shirley MacLaine says, my mother said I use big words like devastate. I don't think that's such a big word. One of the best lines, she's like, are you less mad at me now? And Suzanne says, I've always been less mad at you.
Oh, I love that.
That is a really meaningful line.
I really love that line also.
Because I think it really speaks to a lot of family. I think there's people in everyone's family where it's like, I love you because you're my family. Mm-hmm. But I really could be mad at you if I wanted to.
Yeah, I'm just it's really true. Mad at you, yes. Yeah. It doesn't mean, you're perfect.
Hate you.
It doesn't mean I hate you. It's just I'm mad at you because I love you.
Things in my past that I'm working through. Right. I love you. I'm less mad at you.
Or you just have better, higher expectations of them or whatever.
Yep. And then I did laugh out loud when Sid speaks. He says, like, war buddies. And I didn't laugh at that. I didn't. I laughed at what Shirley MacLaine says, and I wondered if it was improv.
Oh, boy.
Because when you look at Sid's face, she's like, so Meryl Streep's character busts out laughing. She's like, so let me set this up. So they're in the hospital, they're leaving.
Yes.
And she's like, oh, it seems like it takes a crisis to bring us together. And Sid goes, no, he's not spoken the entire movie. Mm-hmm. He goes, like war buddies. And Suzanne goes, Sid speaks! And she busts out laughing. And Doris says, no, don't laugh, dear. The man is also a dynamo in bed. And then we get the song.
And the song, the country song that she's been
written by...
I don't know.
Shel Silverstein.
No way!
And it was nominated for an Oscar.
Shut up!
And I want to say, Meryl Streep could not sing the song at the Oscars because she was about to give birth to her fourth child.
Oh my God.
But get this.
What?
What are you looking at?
Yeah, just making sure it's still going.
It was sung by Reba McEntire at the Oscars.
Oh my gosh!
A week prior, you might remember this in the news, Reba McEntire's entire band was killed in a plane crash.
Are you fucking kidding me? Oh
and so she dedicated that song. When you think about that song, this Heartbreak Hotel kind of idea, like it was really, she kind of put it in this idea of like grief and...
Wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I can't believe she was strong enough to sing that.
A lot of people gave her a lot of credit for that.
Wow.
She really did it for them.
Yeah.
She said. And so Meryl, Shirley, and the song were all nominated for Golden Globes, but only Meryl and the song were nominated for Oscars. And the screenplay wasn't even nominated. Like usually,
kind of crazy.
I think it's crazy. Usually the Oscars like these kind of movies about Hollywood, and this got like no love.
Yeah, they were like, we don't want the dark side of Hollywood. The big question: more, less, or about the same? I liked it more. I just appreciated it more. I think that when I watched it before, I don't know, for some reason I thought the Dennis Quaid character was in it more.
Oh, okay. So that was probably a blessing that he wasn't.
So it was, I liked the fact that he wasn't. And I don't know, I just appreciated the relationship between the mom and daughter so much more, and the conversations, and I just paid more attention to what they were saying and sort of the underlying, they just are trying not to disappoint each other.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of realization made it so much more real for me.
It's the same for me. And I'm not going to say less, but it's the same because I think Shirley MacLaine's performance is 10 times better than I ever remembered. And I loved it back then. But I do think the weakest part is sadly the Dennis Quaid stuff.
Yeah.
Even though it gives her some great lines. But I think him as a character, I just don't know if it was needed.
They could have done him differently.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen more of her, I don't think she needed a relationship because it's like the number one thing you can do wrong.
The thing,
like you're not supposed to be in a relationship after AA or when you're in AA or right after rehab. So it's like that was just a bad choice all around.
Yeah.
But I digress. Budget was $22 million. It made $63.4 million. It was the number one movie at the box office the week it came out. And then sadly we should talk about a little bit about that, but the deaths. So
it is so sad.
Carrie Fisher died at 60. She died on December 27th, 2016, and Debbie Reynolds died December 28th, the next day.
Literally the next day.
2016. Debbie Reynolds was 84.
It was so sad.
Yeah, very sad.
That poor Debbie couldn't let Carrie Fisher have one day.
You are going to hell.
Of mourning. I mean, talk about upstaging her daughter just one last time.
If you weren't going to hell for your John Travolta comment a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Kind of.
No. But that's tragic. That's
it is
sad.
so sad. And I loved both of them. I love Carrie Fisher. I wasn't a huge Star Wars person.
Yeah.
But she was always good in it. I loved her in When Harry Met Sally.
Yes.
That's my favorite performance of hers. And we did that 5 years ago.
Oh my God.
5 years ago, people. It's one of the single digit numbers, I think. It was like the first, you know what it was? It was New Year's Eve. It was our New Year's episode.
Yeah, so
our first year.
Months,
so what was 5 years ago? 19.
Oh God, don't do this to me. 2019.
2020.
2020. Right, it was right before COVID.
Yeah.
I will say, if you want to ever treat yourself, just Google Carrie Fisher interviews. She's so sharp, so smart,
she's amazing.
So funny, so self-deprecating.
And her books are great. Did you read both of her books?
Okay, so
does she have more than two?
I loved Wishful Drinking. I tried reading, although that was also in my 20s, I tried reading Postcards, the book, the novel. Yeah. And I was in my 20s. I just couldn't get into it. I might revisit that. I might try and read it again. I thought you had The Best Awful There Is. I thought you had that book. And that's about her.
I don't think I ever read that.
That's the sequel where Suzanne meets a guy and they
I don't think I read Wishful Drinking and Postcards, but I don't think I read that.
Oh, you read Postcards?
Yeah.
All right, so the mom's only looking
I said at the beginning of the episode. Aren't you paying attention to me?
I don't think you did.
I definitely did, because I wasn't sure if I read it before or after I saw the movie.
Well, anyway, dear, please. So, I have a match game.
Oh, I do too.
Who wants to go first?
I think I should go first because of...
Stop, Christina. It happened once. Once.
It's happened more than once.
Twice.
It hasn't happened in a while.
Twice in 5 years.
A couple weeks
Twice
ago.
in 5 years.
If you haven't listened to Sister Act, Brian totally dissed me. He did his little match game, and before I could even utter a word about my match game,
goodbye.
he's like, so, how did you watch it? I'm like, what the fuck, Brian? So, from now on, I will be doing my match games first.
My God. Well, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so, there was no question that Doris wasn't a great mom.
Oh, no.
The first clue was when she put blank in Suzanne's Christmas stocking.
Oh, my God. Oh, God, that could be so dark.
She wasn't a good mom.
All right, ding.
Ding. Okay, so there's no question Doris wasn't a great mom. The first clue was when she put blank in Suzanne's Christmas stocking.
Diet pills?
Ooh, that's not bad. Not bad. I put nips.
I mean, that would make sense because, what's her face had the drinking problem. The mother did.
Right, so she thought she was doing a good...
Really funny.
Yeah.
And nips, because she's a little kid, so little nips.
Yeah, little
so
nips,
cute. Little stocking stuffers.
Yeah, they make good stocking stuffers.
Here is mine.
So, how did you watch it?
No, Christina, don't. My match game.
And that was Postcards from the Edge. Bye, all.
Here's my match game. Doris said, oh, dear. Well, Suzanne always had a problem with pills.
Oh, no.
I remember when she was a toddler. I was devastated when I caught her taking a handful of blank. She was a toddler taking a handful of blank.
Ding.
Ding. All right, she always knew Suzanne had a drug problem, even when Suzanne was a toddler. She caught her taking a handful of blank.
Flintstones vitamins.
Flintstones vitamins! I thought either that or baby aspirin. But
yeah, I used to like baby aspirin.
Me
It was
too.
tasty. It had a little orange flavor to it.
I liked baby aspirin as well.
I wonder if they still sell that.
How did you watch it?
I actually got this from the library.
Oh, really quick about baby aspirin. So 2 weeks ago, I did a CPR training first aid course.
Because the heart attack thing?
Oh, you know this.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that already?
No, I've known this for years.
Oh, you never told me.
Oops.
Guess you want me to perish.
Have you had any heart attacks?
Well, no, but I'm at the age. So our little health tip is buy some baby aspirin and have it on hand, because if you feel like you're having a heart attack, chew like four baby aspirins, because they dissolve quicker, and you can really help your body out a lot more, and it can be less damaging.
Yes. Yeah, that's been around for a long time, that piece of information. I'm sorry.
Oh my God, I never heard it in my life until that CPR first aid class.
There you go.
And that was Postcards from the Edge. And that's it for us and for this episode of Old Roommates.
Thank you for listening. Please remember to follow us on Instagram or YouTube, where we have our episodes as well as a little extra.
And if you have any questions about our show, any suggestions for movies we could revisit, reach out to us at oldroommatespod@gmail.com.
Thanks again for listening.
This is Brian.
And this is Christina. Until next time.